Welcome to my knitting podcast. My name is Inge and I'm the designer behind Inge's Knitting Lab. I'm located here in Denmark and my passion as a designer is to make well-fitting clothes to celebrate all sizes and body shapes. So this is why this is a very special episode for me to be able to introduce to you the fully customized design here. But let's talk about this later, because now I would like to introduce this lovely lady here beside me. Hi, Antonella.
Hi, Inge. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. So tell us why you are here today and how we met.
We actually met via a Facebook group, and I was immediately drawn to Inge's post because it's rare that you find clothes that is tailored to you and your own measurements. And that's also why we're here today, to look at this cardigan behind us that is measured or tailored to my own measurements, and the same it will be for you.
Yeah, exactly right. So we have this, I call it the form and fit design, and it is a totally new pattern concept on the market because this is based fully on your own body measurements. So here's how it works. You take your body measurements, send them to me, I tailor your garment to fit exactly your body size, and then you start tailor knitting. But before coming so far, of course, your measurements are key, and here's why Antonella is here today, because she will help us show how we do these measurements. And during these measurements, we will also talk about some common misunderstandings when we talk about tailored clothes. So actually, one of them, the first one we could mention is, when I say tailored clothes, maybe you think, well, it's a snug garment, it's zero ease, and I'm totally, it's too tight for me. But tailor-made simply means it's tailored to your body proportions, forms, and curves, not that it's a zero ease or negative ease garment. You can have the ease you want. So that was the first one. But I kind of tend to get ahead of myself. Let's walk on to the measurements, and we will talk about it along the way. Yeah, well, just a practical remark. We have been doing this take a lot of times because this old granny here has new technology, and each time we, with a lot of gestures the focus is kind of all over the place. But we will try to keep our arms a bit more still and hope it goes. So let's start. All right. So again, when you buy the pattern, you get a start package. And in this start package, there will be a measurement sheet for you to fill in your measurements. Let's see if the camera, now you can come camera, it's over here. Well, it doesn't work. I'll take. So it kind of looks like this. So you can have guidance on your measurements and write them down. And we will start top down and work our way through all the measurements. There are quite a few, but it is, again, in order to do the perfect fit of your garment. So let's start. Okay, first of all, when we start this measurement, I have a helping tool here to do some fixed points. And this will be the smallest circumference of the waistline. So what do you call this kind of I use here?
I'm pretty sure I will call this a shoelace that we're using in this case. So any one of you should have that at home at least to help as a key point.
Whatever. A yarn will also do whatever. So I will just find the smallest circumference of Antonella's waist. And I think it's here. Actually, you can perhaps also do a trick. If you do like this, you will kind of bend in the smallest circumference. I saw that somewhere. I don't recall where, but so I think it's here. So let's fix this one here. Okay, let's start with the first measurement, and this is the key measurement to picking your size. We start tailoring the garment according to this back measurement, and then we change the sizes as we go. Of course, you don't have to consider this. I have built it into the pattern based on your measurements. So Here we call this measurement from acromion point to acromion point. This is our cross back. And in the case of Antonella here, it's very visible because we have this knuckle, the acromion point. I don't know what you call it otherwise, but let's keep with knuckle. Don't be. Antonella, you're actually from US, aren't you? You have lived in US, so you can correct my English here if.
It's a long time ago, but maybe a bit is still stuck. Maybe a bit.
So, so we pick from here to here. If you're like me, it's hard to actually feel this knuckle here because you are well isolated like me. You can always look here because it's actually a kind of a straight line from your underarm. So it will help you also locate or identify the point. So Antonella, if you just turn a little bit, then both I and the camera can see, and I pick from this point to this point. And when doing the measurement, you can have the measuring tape up here or slouching like here. So try to make it rather straight. It's better that it's a bit upwards here because the cardigan will go up here, or sweater, same thing. And then we take this point here, and in Antonella's case, it's 36 centimeters. I will write it in inches. You divide by 2.5. Okay, that was the first point. Now we have the size for the garment. Then we pick the next size, and it's actually also a cross-back measurement, but it's at the underarm. So right here, it's rather visible. So we take here to here, and here Antonella is 36. So we had 36. I would say in this case, kind of unique because this is rarely the case. I have done all Antonella's measurements, so they are all here, so I don't have to note them down now. So that was cross-back. Let's look at the front measurements. And now we will take some, I think it's called girths, circumferences.
That I don't know.
Okay,
that's what we will call it.
maybe that's a sewing term or whatever. You English speaking people, you can help me with the pronunciation. So now we will do some circumferences. And what we always do, we do the bust circumference. And when you do the bust circumference, you pick the place where the bust is the fullest, here at the apex. So we take this measurement, and usually we would pick our size based on this measurement, wouldn't we? Because we want it cannot be too snug there, right? But you see, if we pick the size based on our bust circumference, it may be that it is very wide and loose up here, and then we will get a gaping armhole. It could be the other way around, that the bust is smaller and we have wider shoulders, then it would be too small here. So, I mean, that's why we use different measurements. Very few of us are standard all the way down. So, one other circumference we do is the upper bust and the lower bust, or underbust. And these are very key measurements as well, because this will tell us the curve of the bust and how much fabric we need to cover the bust, but also width-wise. So we do this by measuring here at the underarm and do like this. And again, when you do your measurements, don't squeeze because then it will be too small. Don't slouch. Usually it helps if you place a finger underneath, then it's kind of like it should be. So here you see Antonella is 88. Let's take her bust measurement. It is 86. So you see already here, she's perhaps not standard, because you would expect that she would actually be if she was standard, it's such a terrible word, isn't it? But then you would expect the bust circumference to be a bit wider than here. But maybe, Antonella, you have been training, lifting, swimming, whatever, or you are simply built like this. It could have many causes, but that's why it's so important to do these measurements. Okay, then we do the underbust. And typically this is, you have the bra band here, so it's at the undercut, what do you call it? The under rim or edge of the
Yeah, kind
bra.
of like around where the wire would be, like underneath.
Yeah, exactly. So we take this measurement here. And well, standard-wise, we would expect this to be smaller. And actually, when we buy the bras, when we measure the bra or cup size, we do the bust circumference and subtract the underbust circumference, and then we get the cup size. And here's the thing, when you do a knitted garment, it's kind of like standard that you use a cup size B. So you expect this difference to be around 2 inches, and this is quite fine. Then you don't have to do any tailoring of your garment to make extra room for your bust. So that's fine. But we will get into this full bust adjustment later. Now we do another circumference, and this is the waistline, and it's here where we put this, what you called it?
The shoelace.
The shoelace, the shoelace. So it is 70. So I would say that Antonella here has a very profound waistline, much smaller than the bust line. And it is all of these kind of differences that each person have. I call them personal traits, and we will kind of, what do you call it? Udnytte them. We will...
Yeah, we can like utilize those unique traits that you have for your own advantage within the garment.
Yes, we will promote them.
Exactly.
So that's what we will do. Okay, so now when doing the hip measurements, what is key here is to do the measurement where you want your garment to end. So either you want it here on the high hip, then you measure up here, or do it where you want your garment to end. If you want it on the lower hip, you typically say that low hip is, if you could turn a bit, it's where your bum
Like this?
is kind of the most curvy. So the biggest circumference of your hip would be here. Yes. But in women's measurements, the bust measurements are key. And when later on we have to decide how to go from the shoulders to the bust area, how to do the increases here, we use the different measurements at the bust. Another measurement coming in handy when we do full bust adjustment and figure out how to do the increases here and make a nice fitting around the bust is to take this measurement. So you do the measurement tape here at the center. Maybe you can turn a bit. So we see it's just here where you would place a seam on the center of your back and front. Actually here in this design is where you cast on the stitches for the back piece. And then you measure until the apex, the center and the fullest point of your bust. Then you have the first measurement. The next one, you just slide the measurement tape to the side. And when you do this measurement, you can have a helping aid. You can take a book that is kind of 90 degrees to your body to help you take this measurement. But again, you follow the apex part and see here how it is. Because this will also be a measurement helping me to see how much fabric you need to cover the bust. Because the bust area is two things we need to do. We need to have enough fabric to cover the bust this way, but also this way. So let's do a small experiment for you to see how and why in my designs you see that the back piece and the front piece is not the same width. So we take Antonella here from the center of the underarm around the bust. And if you turn a bit, Antonella, we see here from center to center, 49 centimeters. Now we try to do this on the back and see what happens. Center to center. Wow, it's 38. So if you're wondering, hey, the designer made a mistake, I have more tree trunk stripes in the front than in the back. No, I didn't, because it's not the same. And if you make the same, it will be more, and you try to cover the bust and make the same on the back, it will be very voluminous on the back to, do you call it slouchy?
Yeah, definitely. You will feel more slouchy, and you can feel it especially here in my case.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's another thing when you do the measurements, because your posture has a big influence on your measurements. Let's do some experiments with Antonella. So Antonella, you have this profound waistline, but you also have a profound curve here. And when you have an arching back like this, actually, if you straighten your back, try to, I know you're born like this, but then you would be higher, right? So when you do like this back piece shortens. So if I make the back piece equally long as the front piece, also considering your bust, then it would be simply too much fabric, and it will sit here on your hips. And if we get too less of a fabric here, it typically, if you don't do the full bust adjustment, if you need it, then the sweater will raise in the front. And maybe this can be part of the design and it's quite nice. This is how you want it. But if this is not how you want it, then you do the correction, right? Okay. That was a lot about busts, because this is a special area for women. But we also have waistlines, or some have, and some want to have one. But we have our small tricks in the sleeve. So let's look now. This helping shoelace comes in handy, because we want to measure the length from the underarm to the center of the waist, and from the waist to where we want the cardigan to end. In a second, we can look at Antonella's example, because it is her cardigan sitting here on the mannequin. So we have here until the under rim here, 18 centimeters. And then Antonella tells me, or if it's your design, then you just write the measurement from here to where you want the cardigan to end. So, and it depends on if you want a cropped one or a longer one. Yeah, did I forget something? Yes, sure I did. We need the sleeves, of course. And this is a bit uncomfortable, especially when it's hot. But I do like this. I do it at the inner here. And then you tell me where you want the sleeve to end. So it's different if you want it short or longer, then we need this measurement. And here the tricky part is when you start knitting your sweater and you say, hey, my arm length is, let's say, 50 centimeters. I will knit my arm 50 centimeters. Then it will be too long. And you know why? This is a small trick. Because when you do the circumference of your sweater, and let's say you have 10 centimeters of positive ease, then you have 5 centimeters extra here. And this is the piece that your sleeve will get further down. So you have to take your arm length minus the positive ease of your sweater to get the correct arm length. So, but of course I have counted this in, or designers do when they make their garments. Okay, I think we are there. I'm almost, I think we will take a break and have some water, because this is a lot of talking. We will be back. It's very hot in here,
it's very hot.
Forgive us. Shouldn't we say cheers in water? Because this is definitely hot.
And thank you so much for the experience.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right, let's move on. Did we miss something? I will just check with my list over here to see if we did everything. No, we miss a key measurement, and this is actually the very hardest one to make because it's your arm size. So you can always measure the circumference here. It's like this. But when we do a design, this sweater, you take from the center of the shoulder, and Antonella, if I could ask you to kind of, yeah, I know it's hot, sorry. And then you, down with the arm. Yes, you see now I have the tape here, so I can measure. She's 18. I think this is the most reliable one. If you have a sweater or it's a t-shirt which is tailored, you can also take this one and measure here from the top until the underarm here. But this is fairly safe. Yes, this is the one we needed. Whoopsie. And let's see it. Let's see. Antonella. Antonella, thank you. This was very helpful. Now we got all the measurements, so we can tailor your sweater. Well, now we have seen Antonella's measurements, and now I have kind of translated these measurements into her own design and tried to promote her body traits. So, first of all, the bust part. Because when measuring you, Antonella, we took this measurement and out here and saw actually we were in the kind of borderline if we should add some extra fabric here. So in this design, we chose not to, and it is raising a bit in the front, not much. You see, it's not so much, but maybe a couple of centimeters, 1 inch if you want it totally level. But we decided not to do in this one. But first and foremost, the lovely trait we want to promote with your body is your waistline. You have rather a long waistline and a profound waist. So what did you say to me, Antonella, when you wanted this?
I said
for wishes.
my wish were for something not to be boxy on me. I like to enhance like that my waistline. And it's very hard to find normally. So that was like my number one.
Yeah,
wish.
Exactly. So what we needed here is the measurements we had with this shoelace here, because when I then did the waist shaping here, I knew where to start the shaping. Usually we start the waist shaping here at the fullest point of the bust, but then to know how many rounds we do before we start increases again for the hips, of course, depends on your torso measurements. So this is what we did here. And actually here I not just kind of did the same increase as I did here, but I did a bit more decreases for the hips because Antonella's hips has a bit of a larger circumference than the bust. But again, if it's not that profound, which it isn't here when it's on the high hip, then it's not necessary because, you know, this knitted fabric is very stretchy and in this way follows your curves. And you will see this example in the other one where we chose not to do extra increases for the hips, even though it is lower. But let's look at it. But you see here, it kind of helps promoting. Maybe you can do like this or something. Yeah, maybe not.
Like this maybe, then you can see how it goes in here.
Yeah, exactly. So it helps give you this look. But I would say if you don't have this profound waistline, just like me, you can make the illusion of having one by doing this shaping. And of course, again, you don't do the shaping so it's kind of like, it is too tight on your tummy. That's not what you do, but you kind of make a feel. Actually, also on this one, there's a slight shaping here to kind of give you the illusion. Yes, Antonella, I think we should, while you are wearing this one, I wanted to show the example of what I mean when I talk about the golden ratio. Maybe you've seen one of my other episodes where I talk about this, the math behind it and so on, so we won't do this here. But just state that when wearing clothes, there is mathematics, that if you keep this kind of principle or ratio, it seems more pleasing for the eye. So you kind of divide your body into thirds. So maybe you have 1/3 here and 2/3 here, or 2/3 here and 1/3 here. I hope it makes sense. Otherwise you can perhaps maybe also see my other video. But when you have this kind of cropped sweater, it's nice with a skirt to the knees, perhaps. Or when you have a longer cardigan here, you have a small top underneath, and perhaps open it so you can see 1/3 is the top underneath, and then you have the 2/3 with the cardigan. So here in this case, now we are wearing tights in order to see the measurements, but otherwise a skirt will do. But you will see photos of Antonella modeling this cardigan later on with a skirt. Well, let's try the other cardigan to see what I mean with the golden ratio. In a golden cardigan even. That was not planned. So now Antonella is wearing the second cardigan I knitted for her to her exact measurements. And we tried to do it different, so here it is longer. So when I talked about the golden ratio before, now instead of being 1/3, it's 2/3. So here, if we should follow the golden ratio advice, it would be nice with a small top inside here, and pants or her skirt. But of course, it's always a matter of liking. I'm just fascinated about all this math and how it can explain why our eyes catch something and likes it better unconsciously than other things. Isn't it amazing? Or it's just me that I'm
really
too nerdy?
It really is amazing.
Yeah. But again, let's look at the cardigan. So as I did it a bit longer, I also chose buttons a bit larger, again in respect of the golden ratio, so it kind of harmonizes the full look of the cardigan. And you can turn a bit. So here I did the waist shaping, however not hip shaping, so I didn't make extra increases here at the hips. So if you close this one, I guess it would be a bit tighter. We can have the experiment. These are a bit tight.
Just a bit tight.
Yeah.
Only because the weather is still a bit warm, so I haven't worn it that much yet, but that will definitely change.
Yeah. So you see, maybe it will be a bit gaping, so I could have made a bit here, but well, that's how it is. And you see in this example, I did a full bust adjustment, very little, but some. And you see that it is not raising in the front now, actually. It's what's it called? It's the same front and back.
Yeah,
it levels front and back. Yeah. So, but now you're wearing the sweater. You can see here that I started one size for Antonella up here in the back, and then I have her measurement in mind here to do this curve, and we go to the waistline and to the hip. So that's the back side. And as I said earlier on, there are fewer stripes here on the back than in the front. And then we have here the asymmetrical sleeve with more room for the arm at the back compared to the front. And while you knit this, you may see, wow, these shoulders are very short, especially before you block it, because it seems very small. But it's because we want it to be here at the line of the acromion point, to go down in a straight line here before we do the increases for the bust. So yeah, well, that's how it is designed. let's move on. Antonella and I just went outside to do photos of the short and the long version of a cardigan for you to see. And I'm back here in the studio alone, and I'm going to inform you about the new pattern concept. But before I do so, let's have a look at the photos. And well, here you go. Here you see the short version, and this is the long version. And here you see some details of the design. Well, what do you think? Do you like the shorter or the longer version better on Antonella, on yourself? Or how do you find the fit and the design in general? I would love to see your comments below. If you find that this concept and tailor knitting is something for you, you can write me on this email address. It's also linked below, and I will put you on a wait list to do your specific pattern. It's not a binding sign-on for the pattern. Of course, this will only be valid when and if you buy the pattern, when it's published, but it's to give me an idea of the interest and how I should plan, because of course it takes me a bit time to do your pattern based on your measurements. So it's just not a one send off once you buy the pattern. So let's have a look at the flow, how we do it. So it works like this. I send you a start package. So what is a start package? Well, besides the measurement sheet you saw to fill in your measurements, it's information about the yarn, the gauge, the materials you need, the number of skeins, the nature of the yarn, the gauging, a lot of startup information, the size conversion table, and so on, that is helpful before you start your project. Then the next step is that you do your measurements and you send me your personal measurements, because now I can start tailoring your specific pattern, but we will still await your gauge swatching, that you get the post blocking results, because when tailoring a garment specific to your measurement, the gauge swatching is key. It's always key, but it's even more when we do the tailoring, of course. So the gauge of this specific design is 20 stitches times 29 rows upon washing and blocking. So we will await your results, and upon the results, I can send you your customized pattern, and you will start tailor knitting your garment. So what happens when you start tailoring your pattern? Well, you find a lot of free knitting tutorials here on YouTube, and these tutorials are directed towards making the sweater as well as the cardigan, both for males and females, and these patterns will be released consecutively. So you will find everything here about the techniques I use, the details, and so on. If you need more help, there's actually 1 hour of free consultation included. So feel free to mail me, call me, and we will have a talk about your fitting, your garment, or if you meet a roadblock or something. But definitely one point of meet is when you have done your yoke part, and we will have a look together whether it looks as intended and it is the right fit before you move on to the body part. So this is a meet point, so to speak. Yeah, well, I guess this is it. So I am so curious to see how well you will receive this, and whether or not this tailoring concept is something for you. I cannot tell you how rewarding this has been with the testers, and to see happy faces when things are fitting and you can mix and merge the parts of a garment to fit you exactly. So please find here some photos from a tester kindly provided by Anne. She has been making a sweater for her son-in-law, And these are the photos, some of the photos sent to me during this tailor knitting process, where we kind of evaluated and validated the fit of the design before she moved on to the body. So here you see them. So again, if this is something for you, please let me know. Send me a direct message, a personal message, and you can be there on a wait list, or you can just ask questions below or whatever. I will do my very best to answer you. And watch out for the consecutive releases here on my Instagram. I will inform about the releases. I will try to do it here as well, but of course on Ravelry you will find the patterns and see the release dates there. But I will publish on Instagram. So yeah, well, luckily I have a lot of models just like Antonella, so that we can see the design on males and females and different body types. And the testers will also share their photos once we have released this pattern. Yeah, well, this was all of the content for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, whether or not you are making this design, talking about the measurements and so on. I hope it's helpful. And in upcoming episodes in these knitting tutorials, I will of course show you what we do with the different measurements and how we use them to do the tailoring on the body part. Yes, that was all for now. So Roger and over from Inge's Knitting Lab. Color me happy. Talk soon. Bye bye.